Hello, everybody. So I think possibly back to the whole vegan debate and the vegan activist debate. I suppose like what really kind of inspired a bit of irritation in me is not necessarily vegans themselves, but a few of the pundits speaking about agriculture and agricultural economies and all this sort of thing from the vegan activist movement and the sort of the misinformation or the falsehoods that these people spread quite often, and the propaganda, which is often based on spurious information, unfortunately. And really, it just annoys me on the same level that any amount of false information would annoy me, or any amount of seeing people spread stuff that seems to me to be spurious or incorrect, or bullshitting large numbers of people, yeah, and misleading people. Yeah, that would annoy me if it was anyone doing it for any reason, really. But this is a very important issue. You know, farming is extraordinarily important to the world, society. I suspect we cannot sustain the sorts of populations that we have in the West, or frankly anywhere in the world, on a vegan diet, and I think that's sort of the bottom line. And you know, what's my position on sort of improving agriculture? Agriculture most certainly needs to be improved, definitely. I don't endorse by any means intensive dairy farming. And I've worked on a couple of intensive dairy farms, and frankly, I don't like it at all. It's really, really sad to see cows trapped in buildings their entire lives, you know, never going out to fields. The majority of dairy farms I've worked on have been grazing based, so cows are housed during the winter for 3 months or so, and then in the early spring they're put out to grass. They're allowed out into the fields again, and you know that's obviously a lovely sight when they first go out to the grass. They've been trapped inside all winter. You know, they jump and skip around and absolutely love it. It's great. It's a lovely, lovely thing to see. But you know, there's a hell of a lot of nuance and subtlety and complexity to the sorts of issues involved in agriculture that need to be worked on and improved, I think, I can't really sort of face the endorsement of a total boycott of it. You know, a total boycott of dairy, for instance, or I've said before, I think a vegetarian economy might be more feasible than a vegan economy, since it seems to work in India. India is a vegetarian country, but there are no vegan nations, with a nominal exception of North Korea, where for large amounts of the population, yeah, all the meat and dairy they produce, if any, would just be requisitioned by the military. So they're largely vegan, actually, in North Korea, which is a dreadful, dreadful shame. But yeah, it's tricky. But then again, India's geography is very different to Western nations quite often, or in most cases actually. It's tropical. It's largely flat, except for a few mountainous regions such as the Sundarbans and what have you. Whereas we have hilly areas which are really only suited for sheep farming and things such as this. We're in a temperate zone, which means we get sort of more like pasture lands and things such as this. And yeah, our climate and topology and geography is rather different to India. So for all sorts of nuanced reasons, it may transpire that vegetarian economics works very well in India, you know. And I would love to see the de-intensification of dairy farming and, frankly, agriculture in general, since, you know, when it comes to this big issue of milk prices in Britain, which is the big thing that dairy farmers always trouble over and always talk about, you know, like, oh, if only we could get a higher price for milk and this, that, and the other. It's like, well, sort of dairy farmers in Britain, they're sort of shooting themselves in the foot. Or that the big producers are letting down the smaller producers, really, by producing far, far too much milk. And that's sort of the truth. And what happens if you produce a surplus of a commodity? The price per unit goes down. The price per litre goes down of milk in this case, because it's supply and demand. If something's abundant, it becomes cheap. So, like, the way to really help dairy farming in Britain is to de-intensifise it. And we do consume too much milk. We do. It's just the truth. You see like kids cereal, like bait in like cereal in a bar full of milk, most of which you just chuck down the drain afterwards. Not a bit wasteful. And this is something I'm guilty of as well. Going to a cafe and swilling latte, for goodness sake. And like the way we do it in Britain is obscene, frankly. You go into Costa to get a large latte or whatever, you end up with this vat of coffee, this huge bowl of fucking stuff. And like, what is a latte? It's a coffee made of fucking milk. You do not need that stupid fucking coffee. You don't. Or a cappuccino, or whatever it is. Get an Americano with cream. Get an Americano with milk. It's a perfectly delicious coffee. A latte is just decadent. And like, if you go to Italy or somewhere and have like a real latte, like, they wouldn't serve you a bowl full of it. They'll serve you like a little cup of latte or something, wouldn't they? But, like, if you go to Greece, it's actually, yeah, like you get cool coffees there, a little glass full of latte-ish looking coffee. And smaller, see? And not this wasteful, and for this reason, like, so many people in Britain are fucking fat. We've got so many more fat people here than we do on the continent. They're all going out to coffee, swilling latte, and like, well, what do you think is going to happen if you do that? You're going to end up fat, aren't you? Obviously. So it's not good for anyone to do this sort of shit. It's not good, any kind of intensive agriculture. And, meat's the same thing. You should be buying a grass-based, organic, soil association approved, regenerative, biodynamic, whatnot meat, which, yes, is more expensive. But, eating too much, for instance, red meat is not good for you. People shouldn't eat red meat every day. Chicken, like, well, I could probably get away with eating that most days, I reckon. So long as it's not like fried chicken, so long as it's not like deep fried, you just like oven roast a bit of chicken every day, like some vegetables and a few potatoes, possibly, or something. Yeah, you could probably do worse than that, and it's probably not so bad for you. Fish, yeah, I think people probably, well, yeah, not endorse overfishing necessarily, but yeah, eating a bit of fish is also good. It's actually very good for you, fish is. But yeah, I mean, farming, so by expanding our capabilities of production, they're shooting themselves in the foot almost. Even the big producers, because they'll have higher overheads and whatnot, and we'll just get, we'll go for yield, we'll chase yield. It's a little bit unwise in terms of a business practice, I think. And because ultimately, milk prices will go down, they'll make less money, and they won't be able to cover their bigger overheads. So, the wise business choices, I think nowadays at least, lie in things like going organic, going biodynamic and regenerative, and the new Agriculture Act that passed through Parliament, or the Agriculture Bill, is like, in 2 years' time, yeah, it is going to hopefully endorse, giving people like grants and loans for more like regenerative practices on farms and rewilding a bit and things like this. And I still think actually it has the potential to cause quite a lot of turmoil in our agricultural economy, since it could be bigger producers walking off a cliff also, depending on which government's in charge at the time, and like seeing yeah, a bit of turmoil there, I think, also. And yeah, unfortunately, like the vegan activists movement, and again, like if it's your choice to be vegan and you're doing it for whatever sort of personal reasons you have, like far be it for me to tell you that you ought to eat meat. I don't think anyone's really saying that. I'm not going to. I'm not going to like proselytize for meat eating or any particular diet. You're perfectly welcome to adhere to whatever diet you like. Is none of my business, honestly. But if vegan commentators are going to start putting out falsehoods and rubbish analysis and wrong information out into the public sphere, then it is up to someone to address that. Unfortunately, or fortunately, because you shouldn't be allowed to get away with bullshitting and lying. I don't think ever. Yeah, and they do also like these critics. Like I think in all these commentators, for the purpose of attempting to say something salacious or trying to paint a picture that's scarier than it is. And British agriculture, as I've said with intensive dairy, for instance, has unfortunate elements to it and elements which could be improved upon. However, a lot of livestock farmers that are out there doing incredibly impressive, very progressive things, like regenerative agriculture, is very, very interesting. I watched this whole documentary about this farmer in Australia. He sort of went back to university and did his PhD when he was starting out in regenerative ag, and his like sheep farms, like soils are fantastic as well. Biodiversity's, they've got an abundantly richer array of wildlife on his farm now. He compares it to like the soil degraded land of his neighbour and whatnot, and it's just a world of difference. And it seems like a fantastic way of farming with nature more, and incorporating a livestock enterprise into something which is sustainable and good for the environment. And livestock, actually, for all sorts of reasons, might actually be beneficial if farmed correctly, for nature also. And it's possible to live more in harmony with nature than it is, otherwise. And this aim of moving to a vegan world, which certain vegan spokespeople want, I think. I don't know about that. I mean, I still don't know about that at all. I mean, do you want, like, I imagine being hyper-industrial, that's all. And, huge biodigestion facilities or something, great stinking clouds of methane, smogging over the atmosphere and over the landscape. It would be like Blade Runner, wouldn't it? Blade Runner 2049, that film. Not brilliant, I don't think. Yeah, and perhaps the day will come when we don't need to eat meat anymore, possibly, or perhaps, or to be more acute, possibly the day will come when we don't need to farm livestock anymore, such as this lab-grown meat. Perhaps that'll become far more energy efficient or something, or far cheaper, and it will start undercutting prices of farmed meat. And maybe it won't just be the little burger patties that you see in the news. It'll be something like a 3D printed steak out of artificial meat, and it'll be just as good as a normal steak. We don't know. And yeah, we wouldn't have to kill animals then. So that's positive, I think. However, what is the negative caveat of that? Would that therefore imply that we don't need to farm livestock anymore? We don't need to farm beef cattle. So all that land that was formerly used for farming beef cattle, we just build on it. Do you see? And that's fine. I will just destroy these nature habitats, and because we need houses, houses, we need them. So yeah, I mean that's not particularly brilliant, and so I don't think necessarily a spokesperson in the vegan movement or any other sort of movement of animal rights advocating lab-grown meat, saying, "Oh, this is brilliant. This save loads of animals." I don't think you're necessarily thinking so many moves ahead with it, if you see what I mean. And yeah, there's all sorts of huge amounts of complexity involved and subtlety, nuance, which mean So yeah, if you're a vegan out there, please don't feel like bad about yourself for being a vegan at all, or if you feel like you've been misled by certain people such as Earthling Heads or Alex O'Connor or these sorts of um, more or less charlatan posers, in my opinion, who don't really know anything about agriculture or geography or economics, then yeah, well, it's a little unfortunate, I have to say, but it's okay. Everyone's been tricked in their life. Loads of people have. No shame in it particularly. And yeah, if you want to adhere to a vegan diet, like I'm not going to stop you. I'm not going to force you to eat meat or say you must eat this stuff. Why would I? The fewer people that consume it, the higher prices, higher the prices. That's actually not strictly true, but it's the less meat that's produced, the higher the prices. So yes, thank you everyone for watching. This has been okay, I think, and I'll see you soon. I think. Bye bye bye. Love you. Bye.